thank you guys for coming out, and welcome to the panel on urban cycling. I'm Boone, and run a company called the Messenger A41 project. It's kind of like a hybrid. I design messenger-style products and document messenger culture with bugs, and also do some consulting in the cycling industry. So I'm gonna keep presentations pretty short and just get right into it, because there's a lot of information here that, I mean, personally, I want to get out. And at the end of the day, I hope to get what has the messenger culture been on the impact of the cycling business. And so that's kind of like been my dream since I've been running the Messenger A4 project and looking at cycling and how messengers have really pushed this industry and kind of made it unique. So I'm gonna start off to my far left with Jeff Scully. He's the president of Ortlieb Waterproof. So Jeff, tell us like who you are and what you do for Ortlieb Waterproof USA.
Thanks. Actually, I'm president of Ortlieb USA. We're the wholly owned subsidiary of Ortlieb of Germany, still manufacturing all of our products in our own factory in Bavaria, Germany to this day. Still owned by the same gentleman whose name is on the product, Mr. Ortlieb. Started the company in his mother's basement in 1982. And he's still our chief designer, our chief technologist, and the man at the top. And we distribute all of the product for the U.S. market out of our offices in the Seattle, Washington area. We've been actually established in the United States now 20 years.
Great. All right. Next up is Kevin Bolger. Tell us who you are and what do you do at Cyclehawk, and what is Cyclehawk?
Thanks, Kurt. My name is Kevin Bolger. I'm a bicycle messenger in New York City. I started working in 1992, and I formed my own company in 2006. And I just love being part of bicycle culture, and it's been a lot of fun seeing it grow and change. And I'm happy that the bike messenger industry is a positive part of the entire thing that's going on. You know?
Right. Okay, great. Next up is Daryl Slater. Tell us what you do for Kryponite locks and who you are.
Thanks, Kurt. And thanks for pulling this together.
Oh, no problem, man.
So my name is Daryl Slater. I am the brand manager for Kryponite Bike Locks. We are located just outside of Boston, Massachusetts. And I've been with Kryponite for just about 10 years. And we are sold globally, so in more than, I'd say right now, about 28, 29 countries, and have been in business for about 44 years.
Great. And here is JC Ramirez, and tell us who you are and what do you do for Cyclone Bicycle Supply.
Thank you, Kurt. My name is JC Ramirez, and I'm working for Cyclone Bicycle Supply, and I'm the marketing manager, dealing with Chinelli USA, Cele San Marco, Exposure Lights, and Villiers Bicycle.
Great. Could you pass those water bottles now, sir?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. So my format for today is pretty straightforward. So I have a list of questions that I'm gonna ask each panelist, and I ask you guys to hold your questions towards the end, and then whatever you guys want to ask, feel free to ask. So I'm gonna start off with Jeff at Ortlieb. Jeff, when did Ortlieb Waterproof start making messenger bags, and why?
Wow. Well, it's like a lot of the products that Ortlieb developed over the years. It came out of the marketplace. It came out of a request for higher quality waterproof bags, higher volume bags than what the messengers were using in places like Berlin and Nuremberg and Munich at the time. And since Ortlieb had a reputation already for making waterproof panniers and other high quality bicycle bags, there just was a natural connection there. They were seen in the market all over the cities, people going to work, going to the supermarket with their bikes and carrying things, and so the messengers just approached Mr. Ortlieb and asked him if he could create something for them, and that was pretty much the genesis of it. You'll notice down here in front some of our archive bags from the early years. We were involved in the first World Championship in Berlin in 1993. We actually made the sponsored bag for that event. And there's a few people in the room that actually remember when that was new. A couple old people like myself. But you know, the Germans are very practical, and they wanted to make sure that they were making a bag that not only was waterproof, but not necessarily stylish as much as function. So definitely function and over form. So they made it, of course, as a backpack with 2 shoulder straps, which distributed the weight evenly and made for a very stable way to carry your goods.
Great. My next question is for Daryl at Kryponite. How did Kryponite U-Lock get developed, and when did bicycle messengers adopt it for their use in their job?
So the story of Kryponite and in the history of Kryponite is an interesting one. So back in the late 60s, early 70s, the only way you locked a bike was buying a chain from a hardware store. So someone would walk in off the streets and ask someone in a hardware store to pull links of chain off a spool and literally cut it right in front of them, and then they'd go out and couple that with a padlock. So Michael Zane, who founded the company in 1971, had this idea. His father worked at a machine shop in Boston. He had this idea that if you bent iron, you could make this U-shape and lock your bike. And it was going to give you a much better chance to protect your bike than with chain links that you saw cut in front of you, ironically enough. And so this bent iron with a spring-loaded mechanism was the first ever U-lock. And so that evolved, and then really New York was Kryponite's coming out party. So we're based in Boston, but really consider New York City partly our home, because there's the story of Michael locking a bike outside of the Second Ave bike shop in Greenwich Village and watching the bike be attacked for 30 days and 30 nights. And everything that was removable on the bike was stolen except for the frame itself. And that kind of propelled Kryponite. He got a lot of publicity. He did some PR with it. But that really propelled Kryponite as a brand, and in particular in New York City. And messengers, as the messenger movement started to grow and more companies popped up, suddenly as you walked into a bike shop in New York City, if you asked for a bike lock, Kryponite was the name, and then they would recommend that. So really the earliest, I would say, would probably be mid-'80s, and then as the movement took over and more companies popped up, you saw Kryponite really starting to get more brand awareness with messengers specifically.
Kevin's been working with Kryponite a long time as well. And so when did the U-Lock kind of like become part of this, what you call the messenger look? And I'll throw that at Kevin, and you and Daryl can share on your answer on that.
Well, when I started in '92, it was in New York, the crime was really high, and there was a big problem with crack, was a huge issue in the city, and to take a bike was an easy way for someone to make 20, 30 bucks really quick. So it kind of became a target of people who had these drug addictions. So basically, if you couldn't secure your bike properly, chances are, I had 2 bikes stolen when I was in my first year working as a bike messenger. And partially because I wasn't locking it the best way I could, and also partially because it was crazy out there, And then I started using the Kryponite lock because that was the lock that people said, oh yeah, they can't beat this lock, So part of the reason why, and I think was it a different color scheme back then, right? It was green, but then you guys had some issues with DC Comics or something like that. But I think even the chain and padlock, Kryponite makes the quadra chain, right? Which is like a 4-sided chain, which is harder to cut than the usual chain link. So I also used, a lot of messengers use the quadra chain with the padlock as well. Partly because you can secure your bike in a lot of different places, including to the big street lamps. And also having the chain around your waist was kind of like a message to people saying, hey, if you want some trouble, it's, let me take off my chain and show you what you're getting into, So It was a little bit of both. It was protection for your bike and also to let people know you weren't messing around.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know I knew you could use it as a weapon, but I didn't think that was in the concept or the use of the lot. Now it
Pretty
makes
sure
sense.
Kryptonite doesn't endorse the use of that as a
For protection only, right?
Yeah.
We've seen it in some movies and in some different TV shows at times, yeah.
But I've run into some girl messengers, and, if you get bad with me, I'll whip this lock out and, pound you with it. So that's kind of interesting. So I'm gonna get into the kind of crust of why I wanted to do this panel is the culture, the messenger culture itself, and how the work that messengers do on the streets have actually become this business, if you might want to say. So they have this thing called alley cat racing that messengers do that's kind of taken off around the world. And so maybe I'll go with JC on this one. There's this particular race called Monster Track in New York that was started, and they use these, they call them track bikes, some call them fixed gear bikes, but these bikes were made for the velodrome, not for the streets. And messengers kind of adopted it into their work in the streets. And from that became a kind of a movement. And in some cases, Monster Track was maybe an inspiration for that. So for JC, describe why Monster Track Alley Cat Race is unique and the bicycle messenger culture of riding track bikes, or I mentioned earlier, fixed gear bicycles for messenger work on city streets. And how did this part of messenger culture inspire a global business and innovative product like the collaboration between Chanelli Mash and cycling races like the Red Hook Crit? So there's a lot in that question. So let's just break it down with JC first. Is what is Monster Track, and tell us why messengers use track bikes on the streets.
Okay, so Monster Track is an alley cat, but what is separate from any other alley cat is because it's only used by and race on a track bicycles, which is one single gear. I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with it, but it's just one gear, no brakes. It's very simple, and you only can go forwards. I mean, you can go backwards if you want to. So they keep pedaling, it's fixed. So one day I invited my friends, we were like a group of 3 people riding fixed bicycles in New York doing messenger. So I was into alley cat, so I invited them to participate in one. So after that we get together and we were kind of like not happy about our results, of course, but we were saying that probably we should do only alley cat race for only fixed gear. So that's how the concept of Monster Track it became a reality after my friend decided to throw alley cat on his birthday in the coldest month of the year, which is February. So it was very cold and it's a brutal race.
Snake.
So a snake, yeah, which is living here in Philadelphia. He got married, so he told me if I want to keep doing the Monster Track when he left. So I took over Monster Track after he left. So I started organizing. And I think that's what kind of like the golden years of Monster Track, I would say. And actually my friend Hodari, he helped me off to organize a couple of them, and he found a really nice place to throw the party, which was a boat in New York City, called it the Fry Pan. And I think that was the golden years of Monster Track, where it was really a lot of people, over 160 people from all over the world. So I think that inspired other people to actually ride track bikes and start the boom of the culture, like, and what it is right now. So was the
Okay,
What's
no,
the next?
that's great. No, then the next part of that. Okay, so this inspired. Now it's a global business, right? And And can you tell me a little bit about since you're working with Cyclone now, on the innovation part of these track bikes and what manufacturers are actually trying to do with these bikes, because they're actually trying to innovate and make these bikes really, really special for urban cycling and not for the actual track. And one of those things was just Chanelli Mash. So do you know much about the Chanelli Mash relationship?
Yeah, so Chanelli Mash and they got partnered and they start doing these frames, specific fixed gear. And I think that was the boom of the whole culture, because these guys create a video about the visit in New York City, like living the lifestyle, which was riding fixed gear, going for races, and just be part of the whole community. And I think after that, it created because they did a visualized, like a show, like everybody saw that video, the MASH video. I believe everybody remember it. And it was really good. I was watching it every day before I go to work, because it was really nice. So I think that inspired and give all the companies to see that this kind of bicycles is different, and they got different style than any other bike. And it's utilized to work in the city and to race as well. So it's kind of like professional, but in the wild, wild west, which is racing in traffic, in lights, crossing red lights, and almost hitting pedestrians, not hitting it.
So that's extremely dangerous, right?
Yeah, of course, it's very dangerous, and I think David Trimble saw this when he participated in Monster Truck, one of the Monster Trucks. But he organized the first Recored Creed, kind of inspired on Monster Truck, but he did it on his own style. He did a 20 laps and like a Creed style. So I think that's why a lot of people see this culture as a way to put the products out there.
No, that's great, that's great. So now
Can I just throw in real quick? I think the whole thing with the track bike, at least in New York, it was, when I started out as a messenger, I started out on a mountain bike. And then I saw that bike messengers were riding these brakeless, stripped down, just 2 wheels and a frame bike. And the appeal to the bike messengers, I think, was that it was easy to take care of. In the wintertime, you didn't have to, after you work all day and your bike is covered with snow and grime and everything, you didn't have to worry about adjusting your brake cables or your derailleur. You just had this bike, all you had to do was keep air in the tires, basically. So it was a popular bike for work. And so many messengers were using the brakeless track bike for work, and no one really, it wasn't a big deal, but there were some of us, most of us in our 20s, who thought we were faster than everyone else. Mm-hmm. And that's where the whole idea came from, to start saying, who's really the fastest? How are we going to find out?
Right. Now, kind of like the style thing also, there was a photographer came into the messenger community and saw you guys and decided to do a book called Messenger Styles that kind of like identified this subculture. And then Kevin, you was involved with that a little bit. You too, JC. You guys were in that book. Mm. And what was that like? You just went to the photographer's studio and he said, hey, you guys are styling now.
Actually, that guy, he chased us around a lot for a while, trying to get everyone together. But he was a persistent guy, and he set up some studio time, I think over the course of a week. And he had as many people come in as possible and get their photos taken. And then he got the book published. And I guess it was a really nice book. It was different, and it was picked up by Fashion Institute of Technology. They used it in one of their classes, I remember. And it was just it was capturing the street style, which is not like, you're not trying to be fashionable. Like, this is just the way you dress.
That's how we look.
Yeah, you have a bandana because you gotta wipe your face every once in a while, stuff like that,
Yeah, so it became style. So I used to go in Bloomingdale's and I'd be in beat up jeans and old t-shirt and like sure, I'm styling. I'm supposed to look like a bum, but all of a sudden I look like I'm styling. So, because kids were into the dingy t-shirts, cut-up jeans, it's a whole fashion thing going on now. But before that, you would look like a bum. So that's great for us messengers. So while I'm on the Alley Cat stories, Kevin, tell us what is the Alley Cat race? Break it down, and as far as your history knowledge, where did it come from?
Well, basically, it's kind of like a scavenger hunt on bicycles. So imagine, the first one I was involved with, you get a sheet of paper at the start, and it has a certain amount of places that you have to go to, and you might have to perform a task at each place, and then you get a stamp and you bring it back to the finish, and whoever gets there first is the winner, So I believe, I know in New York we were inspired by the Messenger World Championships, which started in Berlin in 1993. The first one in North America was 95 in Toronto. So when I went to that, it awakened me to this culture. I was like, oh, bike messengers get together and have fun and stuff. For me, it was just a job, and I didn't know bike messengers were cool, or other bike messengers in New York it was just like a job. You hung out with the people in your company, and after work you would go to Washington Square Park if you wanted to drink beer or whatever, but there was no real, only time people would come together is when someone would get severely injured or get killed on the job. Hodari, I think you stuck a flyer in my wheel in like '93 to go to a memorial service for a bike messenger that was killed on Madison Avenue. And like,
Whoa, in front of.
so in New York, we weren't really aware of like this whole fun aspect of it. At least I wasn't, until we went to the World Championships, and all of a sudden I was like, wow, people do this all over the place, and everyone's having a good time. So that inspired me to organize one in New York, and then it just kind of, it was a fun thing that kind of took off. And like, I think as far as companies that help out with prizes and sponsorship, I think they see that, from what I understand, is they'll see bike messengers as maybe not their best consumer, because a lot of bike messengers don't have a lot of money, but bike messengers are influencers in the sense that they're out there all the time, and they're highly visible. And what are the products they're using? Are they using a bag that's gonna get through the winter? Are they using a lock that's gonna keep their bike in one place? Then I think people put two and two together and say, oh, all the bike messengers use that, then that's why I'm gonna go to the store and buy, At least that's what I keep telling my sponsors,
Yeah. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna swing it over to Jeff while we're on that sponsorship question. Okay, so Ortlieb Waterproof sponsored the first Cyclone Messenger World Championship in Berlin in 1993, and have since sponsored many more urban cycling and messenger events. What has this kind of sponsorship meant to your brand?
Well, it's visibility. I mean, Kevin's absolutely right. If you see a professional using a product, you hope that there's a correlation between durability and functionality that translates to somebody who certainly isn't going to put the bag through the same paces that a pro like these guys would do. So that's part of it. Visibility is part of it. But the other part of it is, it's two-part. One is we take pride in what we do. We think that our bags are the best, and we like to see the professionals using our product because we think we can make their life better and make their become more profitable, be able to carry more, be comfortable, be safe on the bike, and it's important for us that we're giving back in that regard. And then we get great feedback from users. I mean, nobody beats up a bag like a messenger. I mean, these guys hammer their product, and they put 10 years of life into a bag that they've been on the street for 6 to 12 months. And we get a lot of valuable feedback on how we can improve our product and make them more durable and make them safer. So it's really, really valuable. It's a valuable relationship for us.
Oh, great. So, Daryl, did the endorsement by Bicycle Messengers extend to making the Kryponite lock brand well known for locking up your bicycle in urban cities, in addition to your U-lock obtaining cult status among bicycle messengers and urban cyclists. So basically, it's like almost the same question I'm asking Jeff,
Yeah,
but
yeah. So I
more
can-
so for the lots.
Yeah, so I can pick up on what Jeff was saying, because it's very true in the world of security. So when you think of a bike messenger, I mean, the relationship, it works. When we talk about bike messengers in the world of Kryponite, there are super users. So in any type of product testing environment, as Jeff said, you know, a messenger locks and unlocks their bike anywhere from 20 to 40 times a day, and it could be more. You know, I think on average when we did the messenger project, we looked at potentially, you know, as high as 50 runs a day, as low as maybe 15 to 20. So a messenger in the course of a month is operating a key and a cylinder more than the average weekend warrior or even like a commuter may do in a year. To Jeff's point about the durability. So when we talk about needing feedback about whether or not a key works, a cylinder works, you're going to go to a messenger. And then you know, if you're a commuter, again, back to kind of that awareness piece, if you're a commuter and you see that a messenger is doing that and they're locking and unlocking more in one day than you will in a month, you know that that has to speak to quality. So from a strictly durability, quality, and ease of use perspective, messengers are the best testers of your product you're going to have. And quite honestly, what I appreciate is, you know, the likes of Squid, JC, they're going to give you honest feedback. They're going to tell you when something works really well and when something doesn't work for them and they miss being where they need to be because that's the livelihood in terms of delivery. They're going to let you know about that as well, and you're going to take that feedback like it's gold. So that's kind of the strictly product testing piece. And then just from a kind of an awareness in an urban area, kind of the cool factor of, you know, people will ask me in certain countries when we talk about messengers and they say, but it's just a lock. It's a piece of steel. It's a mechanical lock. How is it in Cosmo magazine? How is it something that's featured in TV shows? And why are people helping, what's his name, Joseph Gordon-Levitt with learning how to ride like a messenger? How did that even happen? Well, it's the years of, as Kurt's saying, the years of really people looking to the messenger culture and understanding really just the trends, the vibes, survival on the streets. And, you know, Kryponite's really proud to have been part of that in terms of the durability, the reliability, and easy to use. Because at the end of the day, as Jeff said, we want to make sure that it's going to make their life and their profession easier so they can do what they need to do. It's keep that bike safe so they can do the next job.
Wow, that's great. No, that's really great and powerful how, you know, these movie producers want to come use messengers in their movies and, oh, this guy needs a track bike and a U-lock. So to look like it, you know, so it's an identity kind of thing. So, JC, let's, you work with quite a few brands over the years. And can you tell us about your experiences? And I'm just going to run off through a few of them that JC's worked with, and that's Pluma, Swatch, and Cleverhood. Can you tell me your experiences working with these brands and how important the messenger culture was to them in terms of we need to use you guys for our advertising?
Or like these guys have mentioned, like when a company approaches you, it's because they know that they will have the best feedback through the messengers. But in this case, it's because when I worked with Swatch, they were looking the image. So the image of a messenger is different for any other cyclist. Any from commuter, from professional cyclists. So it's kind of like a mix of both. So it's very unique. And a lot of people seeing like a superheroes in the cities, you know, like with the glasses, helmets, and they look really different. So the companies, they like that look, and when they want to show a product, and they show it with a bike messenger, they show it. I mean, the bike messenger is like a badass guy, you know, like this go to the city, ride every day, fight with the traffic, surviving every day because it's a very dangerous job. So they want that kind of image of the messenger that is very unique besides any other cycling that exists. So I think that's why they come into the bike messengers.
Right, and so Kevin, you can follow up on that answer. You work with quite a few brands as well. So what has the appeal been for these brands? And since they're using bike messengers, do you think that their marketing initiative has increased sales and exposure for their brand? So you had a really good relationship with Pluma. Can you maybe use that as an example?
All right. Yeah, Puma North America approached us in 2004 about, I think it was the vice president of the entire company, Puma, told the North American arm that I want you to do something with bike messengers. And I don't know exactly how that came down the pipe or whatever, but they approached us and they said, hey, we wanna engage with the bike messenger community, and we wanna do something that's gonna help you guys, but also promote our brand. So I feel like they saw when companies are looking to promote and do things, they want to do something that's unique and different, but they also want to do something that's sustainable. So I think maybe they saw that being involved with the messenger community was something that they're getting a piece of the city, you know, that's fun. Like in my experience, bike messengers are usually people who are interested in having fun and getting having a good time and going fast and just full life type of people. It's not the kind of job that most people keep for a long time, but when people do it, they're very excited to do it, and they're proud about it as well. So I think that kind of energy is something that Puma was interested in, and they ended up we pitched a program to them about taking our messengers that rode track bikes and bringing them to an actual velodrome and training at the velodrome and then creating a team. So we ended up making a team out of bike messengers and we also ended up racing on the track. And for 3 years, they sent us around the world racing. We raced all over North America. We went to Australia and Japan, and I don't know if we ever made it to Europe, but it was just like, it was kind of a whirlwind type of thing, but it was also before the economic crash of 2008.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a time, I guess, where they had disposable income, you know. So, and since then, it changed a lot, but to me, it seems like companies that are interested in bike messengers are more companies that are they're concerned about the durability, and they're looking to be used by cyclists. So companies that are interested in the cycling market and capturing the cyclists' spare dollars, they like to associate with bike messengers because we're kind of like the I don't want to say rock stars, but like kind of like the, I don't know, misfit pirates or something. There's something interesting or romantic about it, you know?
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So the bike that you guys got made, was it a track bike?
They had Cannondale. They contracted Cannondale to get bikes for us all. It was the Major Taylor model that was already in production, but they did a specific paint job for our team.
That was a nice bike.
Yeah,
Do
it was
you
a
still
nice
have
bike.
it?
I destroyed mine 3 weeks after I got it.
I still have mine.
Yeah.
Oh, it has value. It's collectible now, right?
I guess so.
Oh,
Maybe JC's is. Mine got.
yours is destroyed. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I put it
yeah.
on eBay.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, I'm coming towards the end, so you guys are gonna get a chance to ask some questions. So Jeff, what are some of the new designs Ortlieb Waterproof is providing for the urban commuter? Because you guys are in the urban space, and what are some new initiatives you're doing over there at Ortlieb?
Well, again, Ortlieb's tradition has been function over form, but having said that, there are more and more people using their products in the urban environment, and not everybody wants to look like they just stepped off their bike when they walk into the lobby or into the office. So we use our research and development time to find ways to give the same level of performance to products that have shapes and function that are consistent with our more durable stuff, our urban stuff, or our heavy-duty panniers. And then we just try and soften the look a little bit without compromising the integrity and durability of the product. And so we're doing spending a lot of time looking at new fabrics and finding ways to make the the bag look a little softer, look a little more approachable, something that somebody would wear in a casual environment that doesn't make them look like a cyclist per se, but gives them that same waterproof protection and durability.
I noticed you guys have a lot of new colorways too, right?
A lot of new colorways. Yeah.
Yeah,
Ortlieb
wow, that's
it
great.
was basically one color for a long time, right?
Yeah, red was the signature color, and then yellow became number 2 in the States. So it's now we're spreading the palette out a little bit.
Right, right. For Kryponite, a few years ago, Kryponite Locks developed an actual innovation team with messengers to create a new collection of urban cycling locks inspired by actually the messenger culture. Can you tell us what that process was like and what's been the outcome of that?
Yeah, I mean, Squid just said messengers are fun and like to party, so we figured, hey, let's make a project out of it. So no, really, the project was, at the time, we were looking at a lot of changes in urban areas. So look at a Philly, look at a New York City, and there was a lot of, from a what you can and cannot lock to perspective, as cities are putting in more bike racks and diameters are changing, you got bike frames changing, we were starting to look and say, hey, you know, what's the next generation of U-locks? What type of changes do we need to make so that people, like a messenger, have what they need from a product perspective? So started with this guy right here and said, hey, listen, this is what we're thinking of putting together a messenger project and kind of looking at some innovation. So we got a group together and really did some brainstorming sessions. It was one of the funnest projects I've ever worked on. Did it in the streets of Brooklyn and New York City and really did a lot of walking around, did a lot of size studies of being with the messengers and looking at kind of their world and looking at the types of challenges they face. So as Squid will tell you, you know, on the streets of New York, you get scaffolding everywhere. So they don't have the ability to say, no, I'm going to go lock 2 blocks this way where there's a proper bike rack. They may have to lock to a mailbox, scaffolding, anything they can quickly lock the bike to so they can get in and do the delivery. So we looked at some of these challenges of locking, and that was really a big part of the project. And then let the messengers drive the product development process. And what came out of it was kind of 3 basic needs that had to meet the messenger community. It was around durability, flexibility, and versatility. So one lock that can be used in multiple scenarios throughout the day, and then trying to have a one lock solution so that you didn't have to have multiple locks because a messenger doesn't want to carry more weight. So that was really the project, and out of it we had some product development, but it was really cool to get the feedback and work with them in the process. I mean, we sat in a room with all sorts of cool materials and different things, and I was like, holy cow, with this group of folks, I mean, it was an interesting group, and I thought, what are we going to come out with in terms of a new design? And what we learned, which was kind of cool, was we got some pretty positive kudos that they thought, hey, Kryponite does a really good job. So it wasn't anything too revolutionary. It was more just kind of some minor adjustments here and there, and I could show you some products after. It was really making things a little taller, a little wider. And then we did our first ever U-lock, which was really kind of one of Squid's brainchild, working with the whole group, but a U-lock that has an extender. And when we first showed this in Europe, and people were like, why the hell hasn't anybody ever done that? And it was just a way to get frame and wheel without having to have a second lock. And so that type of, when we say firsthand feedback from messengers and really understanding kind of their world, and how they operate, it's really informed product development and process. So it's been invaluable. It was a great process.
That's great. So I'm gonna try to, as I mentioned to you guys, I want to try to put a number on this culture, at least with the industry, 2 industry reps we have here. So Jeff, and I'm just trying to get a number. So since y'all been making messenger bags, have y'all say, you don't have to give me an exact number, but has it been like more than, you sold maybe more than 10,000 bags? And I would multiply that at retail. That would give me this number saying the value of this urban cycling thing that involves messengers.
Jeepers, 25, 30 years of production, largely in Europe as well. And in Europe, Ortlieb was the industry standard for many, many years, and they had the opportunity to actually sell advertising on their backs. The privateers had a chance to sell advertising, and so we created these bags that were in the marketplace for 6 months, and then the guys would turn them over and get a new advertiser, and they'd get a new bag from a sponsor. And so, yeah, the number is probably well into the hundreds of thousands of bags over the years, just because of the total commercial market in Europe. So. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty
But the
good.
most important thing is that the technology that we used on this big professional courier bag, that trickled down to a more usable size for everybody. So we've got an everyday commuter bag that we've duplicated that same concept with, that we've sold, thousands and thousands of for many, many years. So it's the same functionality.
Same question. Oh, okay,
It
that's
seems like the
good.
market has grown a lot too, because there's so many bag companies, whereas back in the day, there wasn't that
Wasn't
many.
many options, yeah.
Right. So, Daryl, would you be able to give me a guess on how many U-locks have been pushed because of the culture and the movies and the whole messenger look?
Absolutely not. I wouldn't even be able to guess. But what I'll say is, no, I couldn't. What I would say, even bigger than like numbers, to be honest.
Okay.
I would say that the whole movement of minis, so years ago, there was no such thing as a mini U-lock. The first few times someone spots someone with something orange sticking out of their back pocket riding around the streets of New York, like, what's that? Oh, that's pretty cool. You can fit that in your back pocket. It took on this iconic status of, the Evolution Mini 5, and now you could be in a bike shop in Rome, Italy, you could be in a bike shop on the West Coast, and someone will know, oh, that's the Mini 5. And I would give the messenger culture and the messenger awareness in big urban areas a lot of credit for creating what became a big category now, because there's so many different SKUs that are different types of minis, with a cable, without a cable, this height, that height. So one of our top products globally is a mini U-lock, and I think a lot of that came from the work and the visibility of messengers in urban areas.
Wow, that's great.
But the
That's
numbers
great.
would be pretty high.
Okay, that's great. No, it sounds good. It sounds like I won't put a number on it since you're the guy, so I won't guess. But all right, so I'm gonna open the floor up to some questions. Anybody has questions, or I can keep this conversation going towards the end. But any questions out there? Right there, go right ahead.
Man, there's like a million things we could talk about in terms of messages. There's the safety aspect, that you guys want to ride fast to get where you need to go. First of all, I'll just say that I did bike messenger work myself for a very short period of time,
You look
because
like it.
I was like, I can't do that. So I have total respect for all bike messengers. But there is like a lot of pushback between the fact that you need to get where you need to go fast to make your deliveries, and then how that affects people walking on the street, with the interaction between cyclists and pedestrians, the safety aspect of that. And then there's also like, how do messengers get paid for their work, and is the pay model something that you'd maybe like to see different? Would that change the industry in a positive way or a negative way? The difference between what's a messenger and someone who's delivering food on an e-bike, which
So
is a big issue in New York City now too.
Safety is the first one you said, right? And I always thought the job is as dangerous as you want it to be, and when I was in my 20s, it was a very dangerous job, and like I could say I was an asshole, and I wouldn't be wrong, But hey, I survived, and everyone around me survived, and now I ride. I think it's more important in my 40s with children. I think it's more important for me to make it home at the end of the day. And I've learned over the years that you're better off having a steady, constant pace than extremely fast and, oh my God, I can't stop type of thing. So if you're going 10 miles an hour all day long, you're going to make your money and you're going to be fine. It's the people who are going 20 miles an hour for 4 blocks and then they got slammed to a screeching halt. Those are the people who are going to end up in the hospital or whatever. So
Take someone else.
yeah, or take someone else's hospital. And luckily, with cycling becoming more popular, cities are building infrastructure with bike lanes and public spaces, pedestrian spaces.
Right.
I think it's
That's a
getting.
whole other question. Do messengers use the bike lanes, or do they feel that that's a slow lane for them?
I think
They
it's
really
kind
wanna go fast and they ride with the
of. It
traffic?
depends on the
You see that?
individual, and I use them when they're, convenient. But if a lot of times people park in the bike lanes as well. So if someone's parked in the bike lane, what are you gonna do? I'm not gonna wait for them to move. I'm gonna go around or
Maybe go
whatever.
around them, and that makes it dangerous for you as a cyclist.
Sure, could be a lot of city cyclists get hurt because something's obstructing the bike lane and they get out in traffic, yeah. But that's always gonna be an issue, I guess, you know. And me personally, I feel like I'm a safe rider. I wear a helmet when I ride, you know. And then as far as the finances, I have my own small company and we pay our riders 65% commission. So if whatever amount of runs they do during the day, whatever we charge the clients, the biker gets 65% of that. So, and then on the weekends, we pay 80%. We're open on Saturdays as well. So to me, it's like, if the individual biker is working hard, then they're making more money. And then if you're taking it easy, you're not making as much money. So it's about how much work you want to put into it. And then if you're working for a bigger company, we have a small company, bigger companies might have lower rates. So it's up to the individual to find a spot where they're comfortable. And I always tell kids that work for me and other people, it's like, why not get your own clients, you know? Why are you working for me? Or, you know, instead of working for me, why don't you come and work with me, you know? And I'll do some of your clients' work, you do some of my clients' work. I'm always trying to encourage people to be their own company, because I think that's more sustainable than people working for a big company and looking for a mommy or a daddy to take care of them and pay for them, you know?
So,
So.
do you have a question?
Yeah. In addition to Kryponite, for messengers, have low jacks or bike GPS tracking, has that taken off within the biking culture at all? So if your bike does somehow get jacked, you're able to still track it?
I mean, I've only heard of it, maybe JC knows more about that. The tracking stuff is probably for high-end bikes, right? Like, so maybe more the roadies would be into
There
that.
is some systems that you put in the frame itself,
Yeah.
and you can track it. And some bikes, they come in with the tracking, but not all of them.
Not yet.
So it's something that is not really too popular or too,
As in the,
yeah. So it's kind of like new.
Yeah, we did that a few years back in the Power Sport channel with motorcycles and scooters. And it was tough because the changes in technology, completely separate from anything we were doing, just with the service providers,
Yeah.
over-the-air changes. As soon as you had, like anything with electronics, as soon as you had something and it was in the hands of the customer, if they're not installing and updating regularly, their solution can be outdated so quickly. We ran into that as a challenge. I do know of a solution that's used in the UK in terms of the GPS being in the stem, and that's really where I've heard the biggest movement around it.
And I think the city bikes have GPS in them. I mean, the rental bikes in the city have
They can track
GPS in
those,
them.
yep.
yeah.
So I guess it's growing.
I wasn't sure on that. Or like, sorry, there was another question. No. I guess another question was, for bike messengers protecting themselves, do they ride with cameras? As like, hey, you hit me, there's a full-on camera.
I haven't heard of that. I mean, a lot of bike messengers have GoPros and we're making.
Yeah, GoPros.
But
Everyone's
not
making
for
social media.
the safety.
Yeah.
For safety.
My brothers drive motorcycles,
what-
or ride motorcycles, and it's big for them to like, hey, it's a safety issue.
Yeah, that's different. Like the same like in the cars now, a lot of people start using the cams,
Yeah.
so they can always be filming if any accident happens.
And more-
motorcycles happen
Yeah, I
too.
see more and more police and detectives have body cams. So
Yeah.
maybe it's
That's
just
the difference.
a matter of time, right?
Yeah. You have a question?
Yes, I have a question for Jeff from Ortlieb.
Yeah.
All right, like in the past 20 years or so, like the rise of track bikes, also on the side, there's also been the rise of cargo bikes because of how the business is changing. And the packages are getting bigger where, you know, with technology, it's like there's less paperwork now. So now it's like, you know, more hard goods that are going, you know, clothes, stuff like that. My question to you is to fill that need, is there anything coming down the R&D pipeline from Ortlieb that is like cargo bike specific?
Yeah, actually, we're having conversations with several major cargo brands, not the commercial ones, because most of the commercial guys are building their own tubs and they've got tarps and things that go over them, but people that are sort of in between being a consumer who
Is Bullet one of the brands that you're developing?
Bullet's one of the brands that I think is probably more on the commercial side of things. They probably got some of their own solutions already, because every one of the companies that's using Bullet is probably delivering cases of beer or coffee or whatever.
There's a lot of guys out there though that are buying them for their own uses and stuff.
Yeah, we've got solutions that fit into those tubs already, but we're also talking to like Turn and Benno Bikes and Yuba, and we're looking at the racks, the extended racks that they're using, and we're making sure that their rack systems are actually compatible with our hook systems. And then now we're looking at what size and shape profiles we need to make, because it's becoming more and more of a commercial product, I mean a consumer product as well, because people are using them for shopping, they're replacing their minivan, they're taking their kids to school. And so we're definitely looking at that marketplace as a growing edge for us, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Any more? I'll keep it going to, what is the, we got 4 more minutes left, so, Kev, what's the, Kevin? Oh, go right ahead, sir.
Did you guys see a spike in business after that Jason Gordon-Levitt movie?
Oh, Premium Rush.
You mean like bike messenger work?
Well, no, so I worked at a bike shop in Harlem at the time. And I noticed that like right before and after that movie, like all of a sudden, that was like when Pure Fix was coming out. Like all of a sudden I had like 100 of them in the basement that I had to build. So I was wondering if you guys saw like ups in bags, locks, kids going to alley cats that had no experience.
I went to Interbike for like 10 years in a row. I haven't been in like 5 years, thank goodness. But I did see, when I first started going to Interbike, there wasn't really a fixed gear representation at the trade show, and I don't know, I've hit my head a few times, so I'm not good with the dates or whatever, but it seemed to kind of explode over 2 years, where all of a sudden you're at Interbike 1 year and people are laughing at your fixed gear bike, and then 2 years later there's 8 booths selling fixed gear bikes, so it was kind of surprising. And I think it's like people always love to see something new. I mean, what's the newest thing I heard is gravel. Now there's gravel bikes, and I was like, okay. It's like people get interested in stuff and it gets big and then it goes away. But then I think the fixed gear thing is always it's probably had its peak of being a new thing, but it's still a practical solution, So I think it's always gonna have a strong place,
Hey, JC, you work for a track bike branch in Elliott, and I think it's growing. I think the whole track bike thing is growing. More and more kids are getting into it. Maybe not mass, but it's still growing. Could you say?
Yeah, I see that the fixed gear is something like the BMX when it came out, Like it came and it stayed. I believe the fixed gear culture, it came and it's going to stay there forever. Because that's something that a lot of people enjoy riding it. Not because they want to go real fast, but like we all said, it's very simple and it's a really nice feeling when you're riding it. I mean, I don't know how many of you ride a fixed gear, but these are really totally different ride to any other bike when you can cruise. You become part of the bicycle because you always have constantly pedal, so the bicycle will keep moving. So if you stop pedaling, the bicycle will stop. So these are really unique feeling that only the fixed gear bicycle is giving to you. So I think the fixed gear came and it won't go away.
Great. There's more questions back. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I came in a little late, so I might have missed something you said already about locks. I see a lot of people using the Kryponite minis, and they're just sort of carelessly locking their frame to the U, the kind of things we have in Philly here, the black, whatever they're called.
Bike racks.
Okay. They're just locking it without locking the wheels.
Mm-hmm.
So do they all, I haven't looked, are they all using those special, the bolts that have a different head that you have to have a special tool to take them off, or they're just not worried about having their wheels copped?
So it can depend. So depending on, we never would advocate not locking wheel, frame and rear wheel. That's always kind of the ideal lockup. You'll find people that are running in somewhere real quickly. We'll sometimes just do a top tube lockup because they're walking into a store and they're coming out. I remember when we first had a YouTube channel, we did that and we said, this is a quick lockup. This is not what we recommend as the absolute lock. I mean, the amount of feedback we would get on the video, like, how dare you put that out? You guys are Kryponite. And we're like, we said, this is like, there's times when you're literally running in to grab a water, you're on a ride or something, you can do that. So I don't know what the particular folks have or don't have that you're looking at. Oftentimes, you know, the people that buy the smaller minis generally know their frame size well, and they know what they're going to lock to throughout the course of a day. So they won't pick a really small lock, not knowing what they can and can't get around in terms of the geometry and the rear wheel. But to your point, component security has really become a category that you hear about and see more and more. We do that. We have a system that's gravity-based. So you have for either quick release wheel bolts, or for solid axle, we have wheel nuts. And so you'll have people using a mini, but we'll also have security for their wheels because wheel theft has become really big. But yeah, not anything we recommend in terms of not trying to grab the rear wheel. And that's where, to the point of like the Messenger project, that's where sometimes people find, oh, we need minis that are just 2 inches higher in length so we can capture the rear wheel and the frame.
Yeah, I just thought it was ironic, because I associate those lots with more experienced riders who know what they want, and yet.
That's usually the
they're
case.
locked up, so it
Yeah.
seems strange.
Yep,
But
yeah, no.
also, and also just one added point, a lot of the inexperienced riders lock them up so carelessly that actually the bike falls down, gets in the way of locking up other bikes to the same, thing.
Yep.
So it's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people are, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Actually, you know what, I'm gonna hold off.
well, hold off, okay, yeah, your panelists will stick around for a couple of minutes, if you guys have some more questions.
I got some stickers if anyone wants a sticker.
Yeah, our time is up, guys, thanks so much.
Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you.